Welcome, everyone. It's great to see everyone here, and thank you, Sue, for taking the talk tonight about connecting with others. So Sue, for those of you who don't know, Sue Toohey is an experienced Dharma, meditation and yoga teacher, qualified in both Hatha and Dhru styles of yoga. She regularly takes meditation drop-in classes at the Buddhist Library. Formerly a university lecturer in the School of Public Health at University of New South Wales, she has a lifelong interest in using yoga to counteract depression and anxiety and develop mental well-being. She has often been a Buddhist practitioner for more than 30. She has been a Buddhist practitioner for more than 30 years. And with that, thank you, Sue, you can take it from there. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'll ask everyone if they could mute themselves, please, so that we have a nice, clear sound from Sue.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. So shall we start, as we usually do, with our little tiny bit of chanting, offering homage to the Buddha for the teachings that remain with us after all this time. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. So thank you for joining us tonight. I'm going to offer this very modest little teaching in gratitude to all of the good friends that I've made in this group over the years. So not long ago, His Holiness the Dalai Lama said it's important to understand how much your own happiness is linked to that of others. He said there is no individual happiness which is totally independent of others, which I think is very much worth remembering. Every time we contemplate wars as a possible solution to difficulties that we're having with other countries, I think we should remember that we are in this one world together, and our happiness is dependent on the happiness of all of the other people around us. When we look around the Pacific and see the small Pacific countries gradually being swallowed up by climate change, we have to remind ourselves that our happiness is mutually dependent, that we can't, be happy alone in this world. Now, the Buddha taught very explicitly on spiritual friendship. And it's one of those teachings in which the Venerable Ananda takes a center role. Ananda, as usual, has not quite got the point of the teaching, but I think all of us, empathize with Ananda. We feel like, we could be the ones asking those questions if we were back in the Buddha's day. It's all very well for the really smart ones like Sariputra to get it first time, but Ananda is more like the rest of us, and he needs a bit of extra tuition. And so Ananda says to the Buddha about that teaching, you gave yesterday, Lord. He said, I understand now that spiritual friendship is half of the holy life. It's really important. And the Buddha says, not so, Ananda. Spiritual friendship is the whole of the holy life. And that's really quite an extraordinary statement. Here is the Buddha, and he's given up his comfortable family life to trek around India on foot, living very, very modestly so that he can teach his philosophy. And instead of saying, it's really, really important that you remember the Noble Eightfold Path and the five remembrances for everyday life and so forth, all of these key points of his teaching. But he doesn't say, no, it's really, really important that you remember those things. He says, no, spiritual friendship is really what it's all about. He does go on to elaborate a bit. He says that we're so open to being influenced by the people we associate with that we have to choose our friends carefully. Good friendship to the Buddha means considerably more than associating with people that you find likable and who share your interests. When you associate with wise companions, he says, you naturally hear wisdom spoken. Even if they're just commenting on the movie that you both watch together, their insights will be valuable. If you ask, they'll offer guidance and instruction. The task of the spiritual friend is not just to provide companionship. The wise and compassionate friend is someone who, with understanding and sympathy, can actually point out your faults and help you to see where you might have contributed to your own difficulties. A wise friend supports you in your attempts to live your life well and gently discourages you from damaging yourself. So our connection with others is probably our deepest source of joy in this life. And at the same time, our relationships with others are often a source of hurt and disappointment. In our society, isolation and disconnection are quite common. So I want to tell you a story from way, way back at the beginning of the association, when we were having a retreat that Bhante was leading. And there were a variety of people at it. Some of them I knew from the association, and some of them I had never met before, never run into at all. They must have just seen the retreat advertised and come along. And in this retreat, Bhante was offering in the afternoons an individual session with the teacher. So if you had questions about your practice, there was a sign-up sheet and you could be given a time and you could come along and have 10 or 15 minutes to ask the questions that you had, and he would do his best to answer them. So that's what we were doing, and I was waiting my turn. I was the next in line, and there was an older woman who I'd never ever met before, and she was ahead of me. So she was quite a lot older than I was at the time. I'd say she was in her 70s, well past retirement age, but to all appearances reasonably fit and healthy. And because of the way this was set up, as I was waiting outside the door, I could not help but overhear the whole conversation, which I've never repeated to this day, but I thought it was such a useful teaching for me, but I thought I might share it with you. So this woman complained of being very isolated and depressed. She had various problems with her family members. She didn't seem to have hardly any friends, and she didn't seem to see them very much. So she was, quite depressed and isolated, and she asked Bhante what she should do. And his answer was to recommend to her that she find some voluntary work, something that she thought was worthwhile doing and where she would be working with other people. She was not to worry about what group might be sponsoring this. It didn't matter if it was a religious group or a non-religious group. She didn't have to look for a Buddhist group who was doing it. But as long as the purpose of the work was something that she could support, and she thought she could do it, that's what she should look for. And she demurred a bit at first. She said, but I'm so old, I've never really worked. And he said, don't worry about any of that. Just go out and find yourself something like this. And the more I thought about that, the more I thought about what a brilliant response that was. Because if the answer to being depressed and isolated is to be more connected, more open-hearted, then being focused in a group on a joint practical task is the best way that I can think of to find that connection. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to be something instant, but then the problem of being isolated and depressed in older age is something that's not going to be solved overnight either. So I just leave that with you as a possible way to make those connections if you're feeling that your life is getting a bit isolated. Lots of people, of course, tend to put all of their eggs in one basket and decide that the only way that you can find, true friendship and support is to find the perfect partner and join with them for life. Of course, if you think that love can only be found in the perfect partnership, then you really set yourself up for disappointment. James Baraz, who I did a course with once on a long course, went for months on exploring joy in the sutras. He talks about confiding in his good friend, the Dharma teacher Sylvia Boorstein, when he was about to get married. And he told Sylvia that he wasn't sure how good he was going to be at being married. And Sylvia said, don't worry, dear, you'll be fine. It's the first 15 years that are the hardest. After that, it tends to get a bit easier. So the perfect romantic partnership is rarely the answer. I always remember a conversation I had with someone at work many years ago now. She had been married 3 times and her life had been quite eventful. She left her first husband because she wasn't happy in that marriage. And then her second husband left her, not for another woman, but for another man. She lost her 8-year-old son in a car accident. She lost her daughter, first to drug addiction and then to AIDS. But she had learned a lot of wisdom from her hard experiences. She said to me once, I can see now that I could have stayed with my first husband He was never going to be all that I wanted him to be, but I had good friends who could offer me support when he couldn't. If I had been willing to get some of that love and support from friends, rather than expecting him to be everything to me, then I think we could have made it work. So if you believe that you have to find a perfect relationship, you really undercut your own happiness, because there's no perfect human beings out there. So opening yourself to connection with lots of other people through friends, service organizations, and work can lead us into all kinds of friendships and make life much richer. My computer just told me that my internet connection is unstable. So I really hope that you can still hear me. Thank you. So how can loving others become a reliable path to joy and well-being? What's inside us, how we view things, what we expect of the other people in our lives is far more important in how our relationships go than anything that is happening out there in the world. We can't control circumstances or other people, but we can train our minds to see clearly and our hearts to remain open. We can use all of the tools that the Buddha gave us in our relationships with other people. We can start out by setting a wise intention. Remember, that's the first step of the Noble Eightfold Path. So when we're talking about a relationship with another person, a wise intention might be to love that person for who they are, finding joy in their good points. An unwise intention would be, if I just work on him or her hard enough, I can turn him or her into the person I want. Having the intention to be happy can set the tone for our dealings with others. Mindfulness helps us to be truly present with others, so that when we spend time together, we're really there with them, ready to listen, pay attention, noticing if things don't seem to be going well for the other person. Integrity, sila, is the basis for trust and respect, which is vital to any relationship. And letting go, or nekama, as it's called in the Pali, and which, if you remember, Bhante taught on a while back, and he said a better translation of nekama than letting go is to say, I choose not to pick this thing up. So in relationships with other people, some of the things that you might choose not to pick up are stories that you might have heard about them and that might influence your view of them before you even get to know them, and not picking up expectations that we place on others, but waiting and observing them to find out what they really are themselves. Many of us have a whole set of expectations about the people we love. We want the people we love to act and think in ways we approve of, ways that we think are best for them, of course. We want them to do and say things we like. When we love someone, we want that person to be happy, for sure. It requires a lot of trust to think that they might find their way there by a different route than the one we think is best. This applies in all relationships, but especially so with our children. Not that we shouldn't look out for their safety, but being overly attached to our own view of what we think is best for them can turn our love into control and worry instead of happiness. How does it feel to know that someone is worrying about you? Which is often the situation that our children face. Would it help you to face a difficult situation to know that someone is lying awake worrying about you all night? When you are facing difficulties, how would you like the people you love to behave? Perhaps you would like them to offer whatever practical support is necessary. For instance, as a teenager, knowing that it's okay to call your parents at any time and get someone to come and get you from wherever you are, that would seem to me to be really useful. And I would like to feel that the people who love me have confidence in my ability to handle difficulties. I would like them to be there willing to listen if I want to talk things through. But I don't want them to undermine my confidence by exaggerating the difficulties and making things seem worse than they are. I would hope that they have confidence in me and trust me to handle things. If we can give up our expectations or give up on our expectations of those we love, we can just let them be who they are, and we can try to stay in touch with what we love about them, just as they are. A key element in creating a loving connection with other people is shifting the focus off ourselves. If we're preoccupied with ourselves, we can't be truly present for others. We're too busy wondering how others are perceiving us or whether they're going to do what we want. We're busy thinking about, do they like me? Do they think I'm boring? Have they noticed how intelligent and attractive I really am? If you can let go of all of these self-centered thoughts, then you can really open up to the other person. Find out a bit about what their reality is like, what their life is like, how they understand things. Relating to others in this way, allowing them to be who they are and allowing yourself to be at ease in their presence, not asking anything of them, but appreciating their unique qualities, is the basis of love and connection. And finally, I want to draw this little talk to a close with a story about not letting ambition, even our very admirable ambitions to do good things, not letting ambition overtake our personal connections with others. The Dharma teacher Jack Kornfeld is one of the founder teachers of the Spirit Rock Meditation Center in the States, and the author of some really helpful books. I've got about 3 of them. I think he's written probably 5 altogether. I really recommend them. Anytime you see one, pick it up. He tells this story about a woman he knew who was a high school principal. And as you can imagine, that's a worthwhile job, but it's also pretty draining. Perhaps as an antidote to all the stress at work, this woman had developed a practice of coming home each evening and making a whole lot of sandwiches and then taking them out and distributing them to various homeless people who hung out not too far away from her home. She'd been doing this for quite some time, totally unnoticed, when a local newspaper happened to stumble on what she was doing and wrote a big piece about her in the local paper. Well, people were mightily impressed. They began sending her money with encouraging messages. Make some more sandwiches for me. Here's $1,000. Get yourself a van. Hire some helpers. Expand. And so forth. So what did she do? Did she expand her operations? Get in extra helpers? Go to more places? No. She sent all the money back to the people who sent it with a note saying, make your own sandwiches. This was a woman who was basically satisfied with her life. She didn't want to give up her teaching job and become the CEO of some new charity for the homeless. She had made a personal connection with a small group of homeless people, and that was enough for her. Sometimes when we have really good intentions, it's easy to get sucked into doing too much, spreading yourself too thin. And then nothing gets done well and unhappiness follows. Bundy's teacher used to say to him, just because something is a good idea doesn't mean that you have to be the one to do it. So that's it for the talking. Unless you have comments or questions that you'd like to add. If you do, by all means, unmute yourself.
If I may say a few words, marriage is a funny thing. Once Prakantipalu said, marriage is made in heaven, but the good one only. And he was right. Well, he wasn't married then. Yeah, it's really funny. When we get married, the woman thinks that the man she marries will change, and she's wrong. And the man, when he marries, he thinks woman won't change, and he's also wrong. I don't know if you agree with this. So the man won't change.
I think it's reasonably common, Frank. Yes, I think it's reasonably common.
Woman will change. So, well, I think I'm qualified to say anything. Next week, we'll have our 61st anniversary. 61 years together. I was 19 and my wife was 18 when we got married.
It is quite amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think you deserve a round of applause for that.
Thank you, thank you. I think I do, but probably she does too. Actually,
Probably, I'm sure she does too.
she lived in the same street. She was born in the same street, went to the same school. And when we were lucky to come to Australia, we worked in a small bakery cake shop for 25 years together. And when I asked her something, please do this, she said, I won't. I said, please stir the chocolate, warming it up. No, she said she won't. So I thought at least I'll be the boss in the job, in the cake shop. At home, she was the boss. So in 61 years, we really went through so many, many things. But the other day she told me, oh, Frank, you're an Aquarius. It's a sign of Earth. and I'm Taurus. I'm practical, but when it comes to gentleness and a hug or a gentle touch, she's not there. And I was an emotional person, and that's how I'm really happy with the Dhamma and learn till my last day. So I had to overcome and give up the gentleness. Like this morning, she was in the kitchen, and as I passed her, I kissed her on the back, not on the front, because the hands go up like that, you see. And still we managed 61 years. Yeah. So
one of the things you would learn along the way, Frank, was that everything changes.
Everything changes.
People,
not just the woman.
Yeah. And they keep on changing, yes.
Actually, when you know that no matter what happens, you have to stay together. That girl, when she was 22, we were married already 4 or 5 years. She gave up her family, younger sister, mother, grandparents, etc. And she followed me to Australia because my family was already here after the Hungarian Revolution, when we picked the Soviet Union for a fight. So I always knew, even if she wants to kill me, she's going to be my partner, because she gave up her family, her country, her job, everything, just to follow me, so that I could become a Buddhist, learn the Dhamma, and become a peaceful and happy follower of the Buddha. So I'm always grateful to her, not just because she followed me to a foreign land, but the teaching. She taught me patience. When I felt hurt, I just looked into my heart and I said, all right, there's a feeling of hurt, but who's hurt? Who are you? And then I learned not to have an I, an ego, me with the hurt. Just hurt. That's dukkha. That's life. So I'm very grateful to her for 61 years, but I'm more grateful for the Dhamma, because the Dhamma saved me so much suffering and problem. And thanks for listening.
Absolutely. I've only been married 50-something years. I can't even remember how many without doing the arithmetic. But I have to say, the Dharma did wonders for my marriage and helped me accept things as they are, people as they are. I think we have far too unrealistic expectations of our partnerships, but certainly the Buddhist teaching can help us make them flourish, can help them be richer.
Yes, yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank.
Oh, just one more thing. The monkey, that beautiful Chinese novel made by the Japanese.
Yeah.
I watched it 10 times with my grandchildren. That's the only way to give them Dhamma, through the TV. So in the beginning, at every evening, monkey came up on stage and he said, the good goes to heaven, the bad goes to hell, but perfect ones are not born. And these perfect ones are not born always makes me quiet and laugh and know that I'm not perfect, she's not perfect. So let's agree to disagree. Thanks for listening to me. Thanks.
Thank you, Frank. So let's do some practice. let's do some loving kindness practice since we're thinking about relationships with others. So please make yourself comfortable. Just allow your eyes to close. Take a few deep, slow breaths. And with each out breath, let your awareness sink down in the body. Really feel yourself sitting. Feel the weight of your upper body sinking down the spine, down into the buttocks. Feel the shoulders positioned above the hips so that you're upright. The spine flowing down in its gentle curves. If you're resting against something, feel the support that your back is receiving. There are two ways of starting the loving kindness practice. We can start with ourselves, or we can start with someone who's very dear to us. So this evening, let's start with ourselves. Just spend a moment thinking about all the things that you wish for yourself in this life. And then say to yourself, may I be well. May I be happy. We know that we all seek to avoid illness and disability, the injury. And we all long to be as happy as we can and want to avoid sorrow and suffering. So may I be well. May I be happy. May I be free from physical and from mental suffering. May I be open and light-hearted. And may I live peacefully and at ease. And if there's anything else that you particularly wish for yourself at the moment, then please include that here now. Perhaps if you're trying to recover from an illness or an injury, if you've been feeling low and you would like to feel more positive, you need more energy at present, make that request. May I be well. May I be happy. May I be free from physical and mental suffering. May I be opened and light-hearted. May I live peacefully and at ease. And then calling to mind someone who's very dear to you, someone that you don't have problems with, you're just always really happy to see them. Imagine that person walking into the room to join you now. Might be a very dear friend, might be a family member. You can greet them by name. My dear friend, may you be well, may you be happy. It's so good to see you. May you be free from any physical or mental suffering. May you be open and light-hearted. May you live peacefully and at ease. Just feel for a moment what it's like to be in the company of this person who you truly love. If you imagine that person walking in the door, notice how your heart leaps up to see them. How it's a joy to spend time in their company. How your whole being softens in their presence. There's no need for any pretense between you two. It's just a joy to be with them. Take a moment or two to tell your beloved person how good it's been for you to have them in your life. And then let's think of all of the people that you might consider to be your dearly beloved ones. Perhaps we might start with family. And you can call them to mind. I like to name them to myself. All of these people who matter so much to me. Imagine that you invite them in to sit with you, to meditate with you, just to be here with you. All of these people who you have no trouble wishing the very best for. It doesn't matter whether they're alive or no longer alive. The fact that they were in your life at all is a blessing to you. Dear family, may you be well, may you be happy. May you have long, happy, and healthy lives. May you be open and light-hearted. May you live peacefully and at ease. Thank you for being part of my life. Thank you for all the love that you've given me. And then there are all of the dear friends. It may go back all the way to school days. People that you've worked with. perhaps neighbors. Invite them all to sit with you for a moment, call them by their names. Think of the kindnesses that they have done for you. My dear friends, it's so good to see you in this practice this evening. It's so good to sit here with you. May you be well. May you be happy. May you be free from all physical and mental suffering. May your life be filled with joy. May you be open and light-hearted. May you live peacefully and at ease. And then expanding that circle even further to include anyone who's ever done you a kindness, no matter how small, anyone who's been helpful to you, may you be well, may you be happy, may you be free from physical and mental suffering. May you be open and light-hearted. May others be as kind to you as you were to me. May you live peacefully and at ease. Feel yourself surrounded by all of the goodwill, the love, the generosity that comes from your dearly beloved people, your family, your friends, those who've been kind to you. Take some slow, deep breaths. Enjoying being here with these people that you care about. And then bring to mind someone who you don't know very well, but you see from time to time. Maybe it's the postman who brings your parcels, the new person who just moved into your apartment block. You've said hello, but nothing more. Maybe it's someone in a shop where you pick up the odd grocery on your way home from work. or someone you see on a bus or train because they catch the same bus or train as you do. You don't really know anything about this person, except that you know that they're a human being like you. So you know that, like all human beings, they want to be happy, they want to be loved and respected. They want to avoid sickness and pain. But wish this person well, just as you would wish one of your dearly beloved well. May you be well, may you be happy. May you have a long, happy, and healthy life. May you be surrounded by people who love and respect you. May you be open and light-hearted. May you live peacefully and at ease. Taking a moment or two to hold this person in your mind. Remembering what they look like, noticing if they look well or perhaps tired, noticing anything about them that strikes you. And noticing particularly their humanity, the fact that there's so many things that we share. And then we come to the challenging part, where we bring to mind someone who has caused us difficulty, someone who we don't like. Now, this may be entirely personal. It might be just something that has happened between two individuals. Someone you don't get along with at work, some member of the family who's difficult. But maybe there's no one like that in your life at the moment. So you can broaden your scope outwards a bit and think about people who cause difficulty and pain in the world. People who stir up hatred. People who have no empathy for others. Calling to mind this person who you find very difficult, who you sometimes think the world would be far better off without, who may cause division and hatred. this person who is so not like you. And then you realize that, of course, this person is not like you. Their upbringing was different. People they were surrounded by were completely different from your family. Maybe they themselves had a difficult, chaotic, unpleasant upbringing where they learned that power was the only thing worth having. Maybe if you had been through the experiences that they have, you would not be so different from them. See if you have it in you to wish this person well. Maybe this politician, this leader, who you don't think leads anyone towards the good. And if you find it too hard, just notice that and say to yourself, this is too hard for me at the moment. May you be well. May you be happy. May you have a long, happy, and healthy life. May you grow in wisdom, in understanding, and in compassion. May you live peacefully and at ease. May this hatred between us, this difficulty, come to an end. Taking a few moments to sit with whatever feelings this might stir up with you. May you be well. May you be happy. May you grow in wisdom, in compassion, in understanding. May you live peacefully and at ease. And then expanding your focus even more widely to take in all of the human beings on this earth. Including those who living in times of great difficulty, who are living with war, who are living with climate disasters, who are living in times of famine and starvation. And then all of those of us who are living comparatively well-off lives, comfortable, with friends, may all beings be well May all beings be happy. May all beings have the opportunity to live out their lives in peace. May all beings have sufficient food and clothing and shelter, and the opportunity to be the best that they can be. May all beings eventually be open and light-hearted, living peacefully and at ease. And remembering, we are not the only species that occupy this planet. Calling to mind all the creatures, animals, birds, reptiles, fish, insects, all of the other forms of life. May all creatures be well. May they be happy. May they have the opportunity to live out their lives in peace and freedom. May they have sufficient food and shelter and water. May they live peacefully and at ease. May all beings everywhere, those born, those yet to be born, may all be well. May all be happy. May all beings take care of each other. Free of physical and mental suffering. Open and light-hearted. Living peacefully and at ease. And then bringing your awareness back to the room. When you're ready, allowing the eyes to open. I hope you enjoyed the metta practice, the practice of loving kindness. There's a funny story that goes with that practice. There was a group of practitioners in the Illawarra, and they asked Bhante if he would come down and do some teaching for them to kind of get them started. So he did that for a month or two. And then he left them with instructions on how to do the core practices and said he would stay in touch. And one of the core practices, of course, was the loving kindness practice. And so after about a month or so, he emailed the leader of the group and said, how's it going? How are you finding the practices? You know, there are ones you like better than others, or how is it just in general, how's it going? And she wrote back and she said, oh, it's going very well. We're getting good attendances. You know, everyone likes the practice. We just do them exactly as you taught us, except for the loving kindness practice. We decided to leave out that part about the evil people that we don't like, because we just really don't like that part. So we're just practicing with the people that we really like. I thought that was very funny, because that is kind of the point of the practice. You have to practice on the ones that are difficult for you. You use the ones that you deeply love to give you the strength and support to practice with the difficult ones.
Thank you so much, Sue.
Thank you,
That
Sue.
was really very helpful, and thank you
Pleasure.
for that beautiful meditation at the end.
Thank you, Meredith.
Thank you, Sue.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thank you,
Thank
Frank,
you.
and good night. Good night. Thank you, Sarah, for hosting. Yeah.